Welcome to the Luminators Podcast,
a podcast portal casting light on the sacredness of life through the lens of creativity, somatic bodywork, holistic healthcare, mind-body connection, and more.
We invite you now to open your legs,
Heart,
ears,
and mind
to the transformative energy of remembering the sacredness of life.
Before we begin, please bring your intention within your heart space and provide consent to fully receive these codes. Hi, Lumies! Welcome back to the Luminators Podcast. We're your hosts, Alyssa
And Lindsay. This sacred space invites you to feel seen, inspired, opened, and maybe a little triggered at times, but mostly super empowered. We are so excited to be back today. We're getting so much wonderful feedback from you guys. Thank you to our fans who have taken the time to give us reviews. We are so grateful for your follows and your feedback. We are praying all of these words transmuted from our hearts straight to your ears are becoming more and more engulfed in your own power. So today we are so freaking excited to be talking about a delicious topic, the power of the orgasm.
Yes, today we're going to be debunking stereotypes surrounding conventional sex and exploring what lies beneath the surface of this idea of conventional sex beyond friction and tension and the action towards a goal and into more of energetic medicinal intimacy.
Which we all want more of that, right? We've really not been taught what sex truly has the power to become in our bodies. And we are so excited to give you some really juicy facts on energetics into the body, our own experiences with this. And I think truly where this starts for us, and we're going to dive right in, guys. We're going to get right into this.
Yes, and before we do, not medical advice as always. And yes, there's a trigger warning because we are an explicit content triggering warning because we are going to be discussing sex, orgasm, genitalia, and all things of the like. So if this is not for you and you don't enjoy listening to that, you always can switch out now. But if you're here to stay,
we're happy to have you. Okay, so how we start this off is really getting into what orgasms really and truly embody is this way of life, right? Which to me, in my experience of being able to even reach the point of orgasm came from understanding tantra or tantric practices, which really this philosophy derives a lot from Buddhist and some Hindu background lineages where it really just means to expand or weave or open, right? So it is a way of life. It's understanding that you are a sensual being, that you have senses that you can utilize to become super present with yourself. And in becoming super present with yourself, you become very intimate with yourself. And in becoming intimate with yourself, you start to explore and expand your body's capacity to feel pleasure, to feel joy. So,
and all of that, I'm sorry. You're good. All of that comes through the subtle awareness of being in the present moment. So Tantra is really going to be about the transformation of conventional sex into love through awareness. So it all begins with rooted in being aware. Can you be aware of the tiny subtleties that exist within your body and in your partner's body? And can you both be aware together? This is not a single man game or woman game, unless you are doing self-practice with only yourself in the space. So when we go into Tantra, it really is about ingraining the acceptance of who we are as a whole being, our ability to show up in the solid density of our physical body, and then to enter into the refined layers of our spirit through complete awareness and relaxation.
And relaxation, not in a way that's just, oh, I feel so relaxed right now. I'm not thinking about anything. It's actually the point of extreme
aliveness,
a static awareness that to be in full relaxation or to be in a state of relaxation is actually the most powerful place to be because you feel alive, you feel electric, you feel powerful.
Yes.
Because you are so trusting and relaxed in your nervous system.
True. And I feel like you said, it's been kind of misconstrued to believe that relaxation is like this floppy, dull, no mobility, just bleh. And really, like you said, relaxation is being so completely comfortable in the here and now, in the present of your body, of whoever you are, in that moment and to show up and to do the same with your partner, to accept them, to show up in the here and now exactly as they are.
So delicious. So we want to go straight into, when we're using orgasm, and we're talking about this from a general perspective of manifestation, right? We're utilizing the orgasm, which is embodying our sexual life force, which is literally the most potent energy that we have as human beings, is creation, right? This is how we were created. We basically are, I think in our first opening episode, I said that you are a cosmic orgasm. You as a being is the explosion and the creative energy of two things coming together and making a new thing, right? So in electromagneticism of the orgasm, go into that. Tell us more.
Sure. So I feel like it's important to bring up the analogy of a magnet, right? So when we talk about a magnet, there is a positive pull and there's a negative pull. And in order for two magnets to come together and form a magnetic unit, they have to be in opposing poles touching each other to circulate that force and to stick together. So if we talk about that, we're going to break that down into the magnetic poles of the body. So for a woman, we've all seen that picture of like a man sitting and a woman straddling the man, and they're facing each other, and they kind of have like that dotted spiral that connects from like the head to the root.
So
right?
If you haven't seen that, this is a beautiful image of like a yab-yum posture in Tantra, where people are sitting, like she just said, cross-legged, where the feminine is usually on top, and then you're kind of face to face, very intimate posture. And that is how energy is getting kind of circulated between you. So if you've only experienced conventional sex up until this point, we're going to break it down for you really, really deliciously, so you can get even an idea and a way that you can start experiencing sex from a different perspective.
Yes. So if we then bring back the magnetic idea, we have two opposing poles facing one another, connecting and spiraling to create a sexual unit or a magnetic unit. So if we then translate this into the human body, the female is going to be the receptive unit. She generally is going to be charged negatively. Her vagina is going to be the primary negative pole. This is what's going to align with the man's positive pole, his penis. Her breast and her heart space are actually going to be charged as a positive pole, and the man's heart space is going to be negative. In magnetism, you can only create energy from a positive pole and send it down into the negative pole. Energy cannot be generated from the negative pole. It can only receive from the positive.
Wow.
So when we think about the structure of the vagina and the penis, we have a concave structure, a magnetic canal, and then we have a conduit, which is the external genitalia of a man going into the canal, and it is nourished energetically there.
Just like a plug, there's like literally genders of electric stuff when it comes to you're going to buy a plug for your freaking phone. It's a gender male and female plug because of this exact thing. It's this energetic electromagnetism.
Energy can only be created from the positive pole. So a man's positive penis goes into the woman's nourishing canal. He then provides his energy to be inserted into that canal. The vagina then absorbs that energy and sends it right back up to the heart space and then up to the master glands inside of the brain. But if the man enters into the vagina, we can then change this into the analogy of like a room space. So the man is a guest. The woman is the host of that space. When the man enters into a room and the host of the room is chaotic and loud and angry and tight and forceful, it's not only going to affect the host, it's going to affect the man as well. And in orgasm and in sex, we create emotionality, right? So if we enter into a space where emotions are high, guards are up, this what leads to kind of that idea of post-nut clarity, where you feel disgusted and disgraceful and hateful towards one another and to self, because the vaginal space has been disappointed, disregarded, angry, abused, and then creates that to feel inside of the man.
Wow. So that's more conventional sex that you're talking, like
Absolutely. However, if you enter into a room where the host is nourishing, the lighting is low, she's soft, she's elegant, she's relaxed, she's aware of the greatness of her space, the wondrous of her space, and the man enters into that, it then nourishes him as well. So when he provides his energy, a woman is then going to generate and transform that by sending it to her heart, sending it to her brain, sending it out back to be absorbed back through the man. And then it creates this continuous cycle of medicinal orgasmic experience.
Wow.
The problem with conventional sex is that it's very goal oriented. And this is where we go into the two types of energetic dimensions. Goal oriented, meaning that it's action based. It's motivated towards a destination. It has a defined beginning and end.
3D.
We fuck and then we come.
A very 3D position. It's like, we're physical beings. You need to get my clit going and get me pleasured now. Or it's like, I've heard all these women, guys are never going to, like the whole culture around conventional sex is sometimes nauseating, because it's like you're just expecting him to bring you to this explosion when you're not even connected to your own body yet.
And women are the waymakers for reinventing sex. We are the host.
Yes.
We are the ones that have to speak our truest intentions.
Yeah. It's not up to him. It's not how good he's laying the pipe, ladies.
Men follow suit of women. It is very much his responsibility to show up to the room ready to give his truest authentic self, not to jackhammer his way in for 5 minutes and then outsee he go. But it also depends on the intention. And when we go into these two energetic dimensions, like I said, we have one, goal oriented. Then we have two, the unmotivated celebration of the moment. So this is, you are the goal. You are the fullness, acceptance of the present moment. And that allows you to do less and be more. And then it creates a whole different type of orgasm. We have a peak orgasm, which is very goal-oriented energetically. It's we start and we stop and we're done. We do, and then boom.
Explosion.
We bust and then we
good
separate and I go back to play my game and you go shopping with the girlies. Okay? Or we have a valley orgasm, which is unmotivated celebration. It really challenges us as humans because we live in a world that is very much a goal-oriented energetic realm. Everything you do has a purpose.
Yeah.
There are very little things that are influenced regularly into our human existence here in 2025 that is just an unmotivated celebration of being.
Right. It's all freaking quick fixes, instant gratification. I need to feel this release now. You're going to be the conduit to help me do that, right?
Yes.
It's very self-centered, especially, usually with men, right? Or people are disassociating. I'd love to talk more about conventional sex too. I know we're going to get into that of just how we get into those situations, how misleading it is to understand what connection is through sex and the disassociation that happens in our bodies when it comes to drinking and feeling all of the things that we want connection. We want the energetics of what an orgasm can give us. But to get there is a journey.
It is. And the journey also influences the end goal. It's conventional sex is undoubtedly cloaked in shame. Cloaked in shame, specifically in the woman's eye of having this like bird's eye view of herself of, do I look good? Do I smell good? Do I do good? Do I fuck good? Do I have the tightest pussy? Do I have the biggest breasts? Do I have the tiniest waist? And, and she's consistently thinking about providing an expectation instead of just showing up in her power.
And receiving.
To receive. It's so interesting because we have this outward sensation directed approach towards sex of, does it feel good? How hard can I go? He really beat that pussy up. Type of mentality. And that defines the quality of the sexual experience.
Yes.
When is the last time you've ever had a girlie come up to you and be like, yeah, we soft penetrated for 4 hours and I was tripping on acid inside of my brain with no drugs.
That's what I remember even getting introduced to these concepts. Like, wait, what? Sex can be energetic. Even that was mind blowing for me. Because it was like, yes, we literally expect this culture, expects each other to bring ourselves to this ecstasy when it really truly the whole point of this podcast, coming back to the sacredness of life, of our own bodies, that you are creating the experience from the inside out. It is not them who's bringing you or them who is responsible for bringing your body into this state. But yes, Jesus, it is such a crazy thing to shift from conventional sex because there's so much disassociation. I mean, I remember in my own experience, I never had orgasms. A lot of women don't go into orgasm mode. They barely can, even maybe when they're in their own self-pleasure practice with their certain toy or their certain way of feeling on themselves, and they can get it done in 2 seconds, and it's more of like a quick fix, like an Advil.
A peak.
A peak.
Yep, it is. And, you know, orgasm is medicinal in any form. This isn't to say that valley experiences are better than peak or action-based is better than being-based. It's just, are you getting the most out of this? This true nourishment for the body that is designed to enhance your life, extend your lifespan, extend your health, to like develop you and change your perception on the world, change the cellular activity inside of your body? Or are you just kind of buzzing one out every now and then and not really feeling long-lasting satisfaction? And I think that that's where we get gray, because we don't really know what it feels like to be satisfied.
Ugh.
You have a good dinner and you're like, wow, that was so good. And then the next day you're miserable again. And it's like certain material things can only bring you a preordained satisfaction level.
Yes.
We get used to things.
Yes. So
we don't appreciate it. Yeah. We don't appreciate it on a cellular level.
Right.
Gratitude doesn't sink deep. Joy doesn't sink deep. Love doesn't sink deep. It's very surface level.
And I remember being in that. It's like the journey of Tantra is to deepen every experience that you are having as a human being, so that you can understand the depth at which is possible for you to experience true pleasure.
It quite literally translates to that which keeps on expanding. And that's the joy of this. Today, we're going to be talking about how each time you visit intimacy with self or with partner, there is always something new to explore, because you are showing up as who you are in that moment. When you realize that every single passing moment is an infinite array of change and newness, instead of being so stuck in this, but I don't have this amount of money and I don't have this amount of car and I'm not satisfied. And when you realize that every single passing moment with every single breath is an opportunity to expand further and further and deeper, it changes the whole way that you show up in the bedroom, that you show up in your life.
And wouldn't you say the very start of that is just becoming aware of the body?
Yes.
Scanning.
I absolutely would.
Scanning the body is like number one somatic practice when you start to begin a journey of becoming more intimate with the subtle energies that you are, is becoming more embodied in your body, that there is no reaching now for the next thing that I just need this and I just need this and I just need this to feel better right this second. It's like, can I actually nourish myself with awareness of my own energy and just scan?
It's quite challenging in the beginning, because when you notice, everything that has gone unnoticed then makes itself very apparent. And it's like, me, no me. And it's like, can be very overwhelming and feels more comfortable to go back to what has always been done. However, when you really get in tune with the subtleties, going back to just the sexual experience, the intimate experience of self and with others, it becomes a generative thing. It generates and regenerates by creating an upward spiraling all the way up the chain of all the systems of the primary systems in the body. Wow. All of those primary energetic gatherings are nourished and begin to circulate in the way that they're supposed to, which then nourishes the deepest part of your physical body, translating and connecting you deeper into the divineness of your body. So if we go back to orgasm, it's derived actually from the word orgia. And so when we were talking earlier, it's like there are very few things in this realm that influence us to get into the state of being just because we are celebrating the present. And orgia is actually derived from a pagan ceremony where people would gather for weeks just to dance and burst with divine energy and worship Mother Earth, and to just express like unwavering gratitude, and without taking any substance. I mean, there's a common concept that pagans took a lot of medicinal mushrooms and psychedelic mushrooms to enhance orgia, but nonetheless, you're stepping into a space that encourages just the idea of being. And by doing so, you then transcend baseline consciousness into super consciousness.
Sure. Which this is why, like, the first time you ecstatic dance or the first time you get into your body, energy starts moving and you realize, whoa, it's like this bubble pops and you start to feel your own energy and you start to feel that the body is so incredibly subtle. That there's subtleties that we're not even touching base with because we're so dense, right? But yes, I'd love to go into like the deeper understanding of the orgasm and manifesting. How do we get into using the frequency of our orgasm, our sexual pleasure, our sexual frequency, our sexual energy to manifest what we want?
So this, we have to start from the very basis of understanding what an orgasm is. Orgasm is not a destination to reach. It's not an action-based idea or journey. It is rooted in relaxation, and just primarily focusing on the feminine body is to nurture and transform the energies that come in. Through relaxation, through grace, through love, through play, we then can separate energy and change it into medicine. And that's also by understanding there are two different types of orgasm. None is better. Neither of them is better than the other. They cannot exist without each other. But if we separate them into two different realms, you then can grasp their entirety a little bit easier. So there is something called a peak orgasm, which is primarily what conventional sex is derived out of. It's very fast, rough, repetitive stimulation that is goal-oriented and linear. It's all about doing something. It requires a considerable amount of physical effort. And its goal is only to intensify those physical sensations, channeling through tension. And we think about tension in the body as massage therapists. We know that tension creates stagnicity, right? So if we're tensioning something, we're creating something nonetheless. Nothing happens without being created. So we're creating this tension-filled energy. And then that tension blocks any type of movement within the sexual centers. So by doing so, we then create emotional somatization. I said in the beginning that orgasm creates emotionality. And if we're creating just through the goal of fucking and coming, we are not creating through divine emotionality. We're creating through ego. We're creating through goal-oriented and self-centered at that. Not for the pleasure of your partner, for the pleasure of yourself. This is when we get premenstrual syndromes. This is when we get fighting after fucking. This is when we get arguments and feeling disarray of ourself, disapproval, disappointment, depression. And that energy is then going to be released downwards through the sexual centers instead of upwards all the way through up the chain, up the spine, into the brain, nourishing and activating. It's then just going to build within the pelvic bowl and then go right back downwards, back into your partner, right? So if we think about the penis going in, it's supposed to be nourished in that room, in that space. But if it's not, and it's just built through tension, the room gets full of tension. Boom, boom, boom. It builds, it pushes on the walls, and then it goes right back into the penis, and both people feel like shit.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. This is why people with one night stands or like you said, that post-cum clarity, you have this guilt and shame, like what the heck? And then it probably, ignites all these other thoughts of your immortality and Christianity and all the other filters that your brain goes through when it comes to what we believe about sex, right? The guilt and shame. But yeah, that makes so much sense from a somatic understanding of what's happening in the body. And I will say from my own experience with like, when I started to get into utilizing orgasm for my own creativity, that yes, those peak orgasms were helpful for me when I was like I remember, watching these videos about like, if you were a creator and you're getting like a writer's block, or you are feeling just like kind of scattered for a second and you need like a burst of creative energy,
a discharge,
you bring yourself to point of orgasm, which actually they were saying, I remember like the science of it is actually you don't fully orgasm, but you bring yourself up into that peak before you really release, right? And then you just hold, and I used to like kind of implode the orgasm like inwards.
It's called edging.
Edging, exactly. And kind of like refraining, which is interesting too, because there's a concept for Tantra is one, philosophy on how to live, and it's more of like a way of being. But there's also yantra, which is Sanskrit, is yam, or to hold or control, which is like an instrument or a tool of restraining and channeling energy. So it's like that tension is good, right? When you're, using it for a purpose. So it's like I used to bring myself to the point of orgasm, implode the orgasm and hold it in and suck in my breath, and then bring that energy up, and I would feel clear and like a burst of energy. It was almost like instead of a cup of coffee in the afternoon, I would just masturbate.
Yes.
And it was super helpful.
And it's also super challenging to stop.
Right.
No one talks about how fucking hard it is to actually edge, because it feels almost a little bit disappointing at first, because you're like, wait, don't go. You know?
Wait, are you sure you don't want to just go over the edge right now? It would feel really good.
Yes, it is. It's very, 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 very addicting. And that's why masturbation is so addicting, because it wants to send you over the edge, because it releases a different type of explosion. It's explosion instead of implosion. And it just changes the way that energy moves through the body. And when the sexual centers don't actually get to release it upwards towards the spine, you don't get that medicinal property. You just get that quick fix. But it still then makes you feel lonely and abandoned and disappointed. And that's why you keep going back, because that release of those like
the
quick
chemicals,
fix,
the dopamine. Yes, you're still getting
you
the
want
beautiful...
that to last, and it doesn't. So you have to keep going back.
It's like anything that we do as addicts, as codependent human beings. It's a drug that we don't realize is not actually healing us, but is keeping us addicted.
Yeah.
Oof.
The second type of orgasm is going to be considered a valley, or energetically speaking, the unmotivated orgasm. It's an invitation without expectation or demand to reach a certain destination. It's really just about allowing things to happen without a predetermined direction, being, and it's all channeled through relaxation instead of through tension. This requires no physical effort. It can be movement-based, it can be physical, but it doesn't require physical like the way that peak does, the continuous moving and squeezing and pumping and thrusting and da-da-da-da-da. Being more, doing less, becoming easy and lazeful and aware. It changes and challenges us in this realm to have sex in that way, because we do not have a visual example of that has been implemented in any part of our life. Movies, songs, porn, nothing has given that idea of a valley orgasm, a being of an orgasmic state, except when you see people on Molly or psychedelics in movies where they have like these like crazy colors all around them and they're like, whoa, bro. And like, that's really like the only closest visual that you can see.
Right.
That's kind of pushed into your subconsciousness. And that's through drugs, not through your own body.
And then it's like discouraging to people who don't feel the need, or people like me who are hypochondriacs who have never explored plant medicine that way. It's like we want to reach those places of ecstasy that people get from doing drugs, or quote unquote, their concept of what that is, but realizing we have the power to access that level of expansion within our own mind and body. We can create these chemicals through our own energy and through our bodily functions through these practices. That is why we are so powerful to create, because when you are in this state of orgasm, like what you're saying, that is when the visualization comes in. I want to hear your experiences personally with how you use orgasm and manifestation, because it is scientifically proven, right? When you're in that state and you are putting the focus on something that you want, it is only drawing it in that much quicker.
For sure. And it requires the actual physical sensations to match the imagery. So it needs to require emotion. It needs to require physical body excitement. It needs to require like feeling it in your heart, feeling it in your bones. Like you have to feel it on a cellular level. And when I began my personal self-pleasure practice, I have drawn away from considering it masturbating, because I feel like it is very degrading to say that. I call it my bean time. Bean time.
That clitoris is like a little bean.
My
right?
bean time.
Just play DJ on that girl.
But in the space, I started off with like this high-powered velocity thing, and it was so overwhelming. I was only focusing on peak. I was only focusing on getting to this point, because when I first started my self-pleasure practice, I had never come a day in my life. And I'd been having sex for several years.
Right. And I'm sure women, I'm sure you can attest to really not experiencing true orgasm. Like we have sex and it feels good and whatever, but there's no like, it's like there's so many women, it's appalling how many women you ask, like, have you orgasm? They're like, I mean, I think so.
Yeah. And that's exactly my answer. I was like, I think I've almost, or like I would feel like something different happening, but never was like, never. And so I was trying to mimic what I had seen, what everybody else was talking about. And in the beginning of my sexual journey, my clitoris was so desensitized.
Sure.
Like I'd never wanted anyone to touch it. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't even want to like connect with it. It just like kind of grossed me out. I don't know why. There was such a deep shield around that part of my reproductive system. And that is the primary source of pleasure. Like that organ exists alone for pleasure. It has no other function. 15,000 nerve fibers exist in the clitoris for pleasure alone.
No.
And so
We
in the
love
beginning,
pleasure.
I was focusing on fantasizing. So fantasizing is just like an imaginated scenario to lift your consciousness and switch the physical body off and get into the mind. But that switches off your kinesthetic sense. It changes the way that you notice subtleties and awareness. And I changed. I then invested in a tool because I was still on that journey of feeling like I needed a tool to support me in my self-practice of a suckling vibrator. So one that instead of vibrates really, really hard on your genitalia, it actually just blows air out. And that changed how the sensations felt on my vulva and how my clitoris felt. And then I started to think about my goals. I had read a book called Tantric Orgasm for Women, and it kind of really inspired me to start connecting to my body and my dreams and my joy when I was in the sexual space. And so for me, one of the first things that I ever manifested during masturbation, during self-pleasure practice is my joy. I would just feel my body being so healthy, being so happy, being so content, and I would just think and feel, and it would get bigger and larger, and it would expand all the way out into my fingertips, and my hands start vibrating, and I can feel it in my skull, like this joy, this smile on my face. And then when you come to that, afterwards, you feel like you really just entered into that state because you were just entering so deep into self.
Yes.
You weren't entering into this fantasy of Jill and John having sex on the porn screen because that's their reality. You give your power away when you focus on other people having sex in the visual sphere.
We could go a whole episode on porn and the absolute disease that it causes within the mind.
Yes.
In the body.
It does. It takes your power and changes it and gives it to someone else. And now today, my practice looks so much different because it doesn't require me to reach a valley orgasmic state, a being of ecstasy, to lay down with my buzzbean. I don't have to do that now. It can happen with movement. It can happen with breath. It can happen with self-touch, actually massaging my face, my breasts, my stomach, my legs, my arms. All of that can be ecstasy, can be orgasmic, can lead me into a state of orgasmic being, and I can still manifest in that space. When I'm rubbing my body, I think about how healthy my organs are underneath the skin that I'm rubbing. I connect to my kidney. I don't just manifest money.
Yeah.
That shit's for the fucking birds, bro. We can manifest money all day long. What about manifesting the health of your kidney for the rest of your life? What about manifesting the digestion of the dinner that you just ate?
Okay.
Having the most
us.
easeful release on the toilet. TMI, but we all have to. Like, it's just
no
connecting.
No more Metamucil, baby. You gonna get your digestive system right with the orgasm of the frequency of your orgasm can heal.
It can. Then I started to bring in my partner. So a while was really about my health, my body, my being. And then I would get into more of the physical stuff. At the time I was in school and doing things related to the healthcare business. And I wanted to manifest like getting into private practice and helping women. And I was really calling in helping women a lot. Then I started to get creative downloads during coming. So then I would be in the space of building into that peak, and I would receive a creative download in the middle of coming. And I do keep a journal next to my bed now, which is my dream journal and my bean journal, because there are so many fucking creative ideas that come through my brain when I'm in that space. So many, because I will literally now just go into the space of pleasuring myself and be like, show me something amazing. And just envision God coming in. I've had sex with the wind so many times in my brain. That sounds so insane, but like I become the water. I become the water and I make love to the wind. I become the earth and I make love to the fire.
Hell yeah.
And during that, I can call upon those frequencies of God and be like, show me. Give it to me. I want to receive it.
In my experience of like opening myself to the tantric way of sex, it is truly that. It's coming back to like you as a woman, if you're listening as a woman, and as a man, right? When we are open to receiving God, that is when you are actually opening the experience of being a co-creator with this life force. So you're utilizing your own life force, bringing yourself and coming in, right? This tantra really starts with the self. And then, like you said, you're bringing in your partner, you're inviting them into this kingdom, this queendom that you have experienced within yourself, that like, I actually don't need you to do anything for me, right? That whole conventional sex is like, if a man can't make you orgasm, blah, 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 but it's like all on them, right? It's like, honey girl, you are the one allowing yourself to come to that expansive state.
It's triggering to hear that though, because we as women conventionally are not experiencing orgasm at all. And so we're disappointed in men as a collective because they're unable to serve us, when in reality we have placed the shields upon our vaginal walls to block that flow ourselves.
Ooh. When it comes to vagina walls, how does the pelvic floor actually act like an energetic amplifier during an orgasm?
So it can be an amplifier or it can be a constrictor. And this is when we get into hypertonicity, if we get into like diagnoses. But in itself, conventional sex, that rough, abusive, protective force that we feel like we need to achieve something, we feel like we need to squeeze on his penis and pull him in, that's actually creating a false positive and can actually ruin a man's erection. It can actually ruin his expansion of energy inside of ourselves and changes the whole dynamic there. So you actually can tighten your own vaginal walls. That emotionality that's created in the sexual space when you're disappointed and not actually receiving as a woman into your body, it changes everything. But when you open the room, when you open the space with fullness and aliveness and relaxation, the pelvic floor will act on its own. It will pump and squeeze on her own to send that energy up the spinal column, up the chi column, into your brain and nourish your body in ways that are unimaginable. It amplifies that experience on its own. Doing pelvic floor exercises, if you experience hyper or hypotonicity, meaning that you're too tight or you have lack of structure in the muscular space of the pelvic floor outside of sex, is absolutely beneficial. It is going to increase the tone and allow that energetic fluctuation to occur so much better, but it's not meant to be doing during sex.
I'm doing Kegels right now.
Yeah. Why? Because you're trying to mimic the actual movement that your man is supposed to be doing. Ooh. You then are becoming a discombobulated pole. You then change the dynamic there.
Oh my God, it's so interesting with how it works with the magnets. It makes so much sense from a freaking scientific perspective of like, we don't even realize how incredibly scientific we are.
And the structure always has to do with the function. When you think about the guest entering to the room, the penis entering into the vagina, and the vagina nourishing the man, that is the woman's primary purpose as a divine feminine, is to nourish her man. The man is to provide for her woman, for his woman. That is the purpose.
Yeah. And when it comes to same-sex stuff, it's the same thing with the poles, right? We're not going to get too into this, but there's a beautiful understanding of the body from the poles, right? Yeah. So they, in same-sex marriages, unions, they are experiencing, you can experience the same exact thing we're talking about. You don't need to have a physical penis or a physical, opposites.
This is true.
How you're placing your bodies and even imagining, right? There's incredible potency in how we're using our imagination, which is, again, another whole thing that we've been cut off from when it comes to understanding who we are as co-creators of this life. It's like we give our power away to the external world, porn. You show us what it's like, what reality should be, instead of creating the reality that we want literally with our imagination, which is becoming a child again, we can go on like so many tangents about like how to get there, but wow. It's so interesting. So
If we talk about the woman's body while we're on same sex and just like the feminine body in general, we have to go back to the electromagnetism real quick, because the breasts create the energy to be sent down into the negative pole of the vagina. So your breasts, you can kind of envision them as like satellites, your nipples being satellites. They are generators. They generate.
That's why your nipples get hard when you're turned on.
They generate the beginning of that orgasmic pleasurable arousal to be sent downwards into the sexual center. This is what activates the root. It's what activates the sacral. When that happens, it generates back upwards through the spinal column and goes into the two master glands. And I've said this a few times, so I really wanted to go into it. The two master glands are going to be your pineal gland and your pituitary gland. The pituitary gland regulates growth, gonadal, adrenal, thyroid function, which are three primary centers of all hormonal activation in the body. Intelligence, conceptual memory, vision, inner vision, and outer vision, the pituitary gland. Love, compassion, knowledge, humanitarianism, and devotion. And the pineal gland is going to be regarding and regulating hearing, body rhythms, equilibrium, perception of light through the eyes and skin. And both of these glands are the most medicinally nourished through sexual energy. These are the governing generators of your electromagnetic forces within the body, is your genitalia. And it's all governed by your brain. So that root, that genitalial brain connection is so essential to understand. And today I really wanted to share a practice when saying that is called the mirroring zone.
Tell us more.
The face, the mouth is actually the vagina of the face.
Oh dear.
Okay, so there is a...
So if the face is a body, the mouth is the pussy.
Yes, essentially. So like if we look on the homunculus, like that big man looking weird thing where all the parts of the body are kind of like layered on top of each other based on like nerve intervention and things. The genitalia, the clitoris to be specific, and the hollow right above your lip, it's called the philtrum, are innervated.
Or your little bow, your little cupid's bow.
So this right here is innervated by your trigeminal nerve, and your clitoris is innervated by your pudendal nerve. But there is an anatomical interplay that's recognized by tantra practices that have something called the mirroring zone. So when you stimulate the clitoris, you also stimulate your lips. And when you stimulate the lips, you also stimulate your clitoris. This is why kissing is such an important effect on arousal and stimulation. And so I thought that was super interesting because it awakens not just the connection, but the creative life force energy that loops in that circular space, like in that position between the mouth and through the genitalia.
Wow.
So I thought that was super interesting because there are more ways to get in touch with arousal, get in touch with the subtleties through the smallest parts of the body. And all of these interlappings are so essential. So if the breasts are the generators of that arousal, how you touch your partner's breasts are so essential. How you speak about them, how you look at them, how you view them, how you interplay them into the intimate space really dictates if a woman is going to actually open up her space for her man.
And I mean, this is just triggering just either past, memories of how men have treated the body, how they've expressed their interest in your body, their interest in, wanting to connect with you, and all the jokes. And even women, right? We're so disconnected from the sacredness of our bodies, the absolute power that we have in the energetics of our genitalia. And like Alyssa is saying, even down to the nerve endings is so incredibly potent for our own pleasure. But if we are not connected to those things, we just don't know what is possible. So it's like to feel disconnected. I remember feeling so disconnected from my womb, right? It was like the womb and the heart. We have all these centers of us that like, if they are not opened, we cannot feel there, right? So I encourage everyone who's feeling like discouraged, like, wow, you guys are talking about like so much really cool stuff. And it feels so like overwhelming because I want to be able to feel those things, but I don't feel even close to like understanding all that stuff. I just invite you to continually just becoming aware of your body. Like even if you're just scanning your body right this second, that is a little tick in practicing somatics so that like your journey to self-intimacy can start to unravel and that these things are very possible for you.
Yes. Speaking your truth is so important to begin communicating your needs and your disappointments and your disregards and your dislikes in the intimate space. And it can be very jarring for a man to experience criticism because the man
run on ego cannot handle that he could ever be possibly unable to pleasure a woman.
Yes. And
because all the other ones said that, all the other ones didn't say shit, homeboy.
But man was built from dust. Woman was built from man, from human. So it's really jarring for a man to be criticized because he will feel as if he is nothing again, that he will return back to that nothingness, that dust. Oof. To be needed by a woman is the man's truest desire. To feel needed, to feel desired, to feel like he is actually providing. And then not only that, but he's being appreciated for it. He's being nourished for it. And so if your man feels like you're nagging him and criticizing him all the time, providing then more criticism in the sexual space, which often is a primary dictator for a lot of men's worth, because sex continues their lineage. It continues their journey of reproduction in this world, of what they really provide. And so to be criticized in the sexual space is really jarring. So how you do it is through appreciation first. You have to know what you want before you can tell your man. If you don't know what you want and you try to criticize your man and you don't even know what you want, this leads to an endless cycle of confusion and disappointment
and hurt. It's painful.
It is. So you have to go into the space appreciating your man for what he has done up to this point, and also appreciate yourself for what you've done up to this point. But if you realize that things aren't actually nourishing you, that your orgasm is not making you feel satisfied, alive, sophisticated, ravishing, connected deeper every time, like it's a new experience, it's just changing you, it's changing your relationship. If it's not feeling that way, you're not grasping the trueness of what sex, a sacred energetic exchange, really fucking is.
Ooh, can we go into that?
Sure. What part?
Sacred energetic exchange. So people,
yes,
sex is very serious. And it's like funny because like at the same time, you hear us speaking of both sides of the coin, right? It's like, it's not discouraging people to have sex because of how sacred and how precious it is, and you should not share it with anyone until you know, blah, 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 blah. No. But at the same time, just being educated on what is actually happening, that's when you begin to have power. Because so many women or men, we're connecting with people to try to feel something, right? We're trying to extract from the situation to try to feel whatever it is that we're really yearning for. But it is such a sacred exchange. You are anyone that you are connecting with, you are creating a cord with them energetically.
You are.
So cutting cords is very, very, very necessary if you
clean up your room.
Exactly.
Clean up your room.
All the bottom drawer, all the boxers that he left in your room, all the cute stuff. Like start to, come back home and cleanse that womb space, right?
I want to ask how you do a cord cutting in your personal experience. And then I feel like it would be important for our listeners to hear how you actually do a proper sexual cord cutting and what that means like for you. What was your cord cutting experience?
So in mine, I've done several, like it's when it comes to like a specific person, I would do a cord cutting ceremony in regard to really just imagining them in their bubble. Like I think one of them, I imagined us in space. He was in a bubble. I was in my own bubble. And then I was guided to see what kind of cord was between us. Was it thick? Was it small? Was it translucent? Was it rope? And then was encouraged to bring in some sort of tool to cut it. So it felt like, okay, where's the cord on this person too? Because it's really, so sexually speaking, yes, like there's obviously to the genital, to the womb, but there could be other cords that are keeping you from deeply being intimate with yourself. If that cord is on maybe on their heart space, or, you feel like on their mental game, or wherever the cord was landing, I kind of like did this cord cutting like this. Then I did a whole mushroom ceremony where I had energy healer kind of swiping my womb and clearing all the sexual energy from my womb space, all the cords that had been entered. And then the most potent one for me actually was the recapitulation technique, which is a shamanic technique where you literally, I use this in my everyday life for energy hygiene, but I went through for the most that I could remember sexual partners, even like the drunken nights, right? And you pan the situation with your breath and you recall and you draw back all that energy that was given out and you tell it to come back into your body, and then you release the energy that they got from you back to them. You just like give this very cutting and just a return, right? And I just kind of almost like, you remember those blow dryers, those dope blow dryers? I don't know why every blow dryer doesn't have this on the freaking thing that has a button and the fucking cord sucks back up to it.
Yes.
That is what I always imagine when I'm doing cord cutting sexually.
I love that.
It's like, okay, everything that I was given out, I bring back up into me and I reclaim it and kind of like shut it off and just like clean the space, clean your room, like you said.
I love that. That is a really great visualization with the hairdryer.
I love the hairdryer. And then it pisses me off that every hairdryer doesn't have
I agree.
Like, this is so tidy and so economic. This is nice. What have you done?
Personally, with my past sexual endeavors, I sit down, I connect to the most negative part of my pole, and that is deep in the uterus, deep in the cervix. So deeply, I'll go into there. I'll walk into my room. I have connected, like I said, I have named my womb space. So I'll go in there, I'll call her name, I'll welcome her, I'll sit down with her. Visually sitting down in the room. I know what the inside of my cervix looks like.
Okay.
I have decorated it in my own mind.
Love that.
I spend time there. So when I go there now, it wasn't always like that, but now when I go in, if there are things that I have given love to someone, even if it's not sexually, I feel like any type of love happens and rests within my cervix and my uterus as well. So the giving and the receiving, I will call out that person's name. I will see them. And then I have this technique with my hand where I kind of do like a chopping. So I'll call out their name. I'll swipe the energy in front of me with my hand and scan it and throw it away with my breath and blow it. And then I'll sit there and move through it and see where else in my body may have created some kind of energetic snag. Sometimes it's in my throat. Like we said, the pelvic floor and the throat, speaking your truth, speaking your dissatisfactions connects so deeply through that one anatomical interplay, but also the structure of the cervix looking like a canal and your throat being a canal as well. And so connecting those two as well, scanning over my throat, getting that out of there. Speaking the person's name, identifying them, allows for that actual cord cutting of that person's energetic signature specifically, which I feel like it's really important to be specific when you do cord cutting. You can't just be like, I'm cleansing it from everyone. What does that even mean? You need to be specific.
Yes. Just like you need to be specific in manifestation.
Yes.
Right? Everything that we're creating is very intentional. And sometimes it's hard to get specific. It's like, it can be discouraging when we hear all these tools on how to manifest and am I doing it right? It's like, we're not saying do it right? It's just, yeah, like you're saying, it's like there's such intention put into this cord cutting that if you really want to rid yourself of everywhere that specific person's energy is still holding you, because again, we can notice it's like maybe it's not even the sexual reason. It's more in like the emotional aspect of like now they have a tug on my heart because I feel for them or whatever, or that's how codependency happens. They start dragging you back in because they have this cord to you in your heart space.
Yeah.
That makes you feel like I have no control over wanting to help you or wanting to be, maybe you don't want to be with them sexually, but you still have this enablement happening.
Heart feeds that space.
Exactly. Right. The heart feeds that space. I remember having a big awakening when I was in my journey of sexual exploration and being very aware of, what I was doing in the moment. And, again, this is like the journey of exploring sex, understanding how sacred it is, but yet understanding your own self, where you're at, being in your truth, expressing that truth with the partner, making sure you're safe in all ways as best that you can. But then realizing, oh my God, I am so not connected with my womb and my heart are still separate, right? It's like my heart actually wants something, but I'm still allowing things to happen in my genitalia space, or I'm allowing that connection to be here when really my heart wants something way different.
Yep.
So those two things connecting was like, poof, big, huge.
It changes your magnetism in the world.
Whew.
This goes outside of the bedroom. You then created, when you realized that you snapped those two frequencies together, you then created a functioning magnet. Not just for your man, not just for coming. No, you created a functional magnet for everything of your desire, of your pleasure, of your awareness, your excitement. You are born from ecstasy. Your whole body as a human is designed for that. So when you connect and embody that, way less about action, way more about receiving as a woman. You can enter into that space just by the true nature of being woman.
Ooh. I am woman, I am feeling, I am sexy, high.
It's a great song. Have you ever cried during sex?
Bitch. Yes.
What did that feel like the first time you did it versus now?
So the first time, yeah, that's such a great question. The first time, what I'm recalling is this boyfriend that I had who was older than me, but it was a very loving relationship to my concept of what that meant. And I had gone through my drug experience, and I was feeling so incredibly torn because it's like I had this brand new, incredibly ridiculous experience with God at the time, and he was just not that, and he was moving to California, and I was going to move with him, and we connected, and I remember crying, and I remember him asking me what's wrong, and I was like, I don't know. It was like so disconnected. Like, why the fuck am I crying right now?
And it like scares the man most of the time. They're like, am I doing something wrong? Am I hurting you?
Yeah. Which, like, thank God he was, he was, I guess, mature enough in a way to like just hold me. And I guess he held a pretty good space, but I just remember feeling so incredibly confused at my own self. Like, I don't know, bro. I literally don't know why I'm crying right now. And it's, my heart goes out to women who are like, I don't know why I'm sorry, or by me apologizing for this emotion that comes up. But for whatever reason, it would obviously, was hitting a part of me that was deeply needed to be penetrated in that way. But I will say my most potent crying experiences have been in my current partnership with what I believe to be divine union, because talk about like the access, right? The access to the room. Like, I've cleansed my room, and now he, as I experience him as a human man, right? But in my spiritual aspect of what divine union is, I am actually worshiping and serving God through him, right? This Father Sky. And he has such access to me that even when we are having sex, I literally said, like, I am opening to God. It's not him, the
You are absorbing him.
Yes, I am absorbing
You
him.
are absorbing him. You
Ooh.
are. And transmuting.
And I feel like what I have felt like legit is that he has access to the nooks and the crannies and the hidden gem, the little like the little
hidden
fairy
drawers.
doors. Like, if my body was like a kingdom, right? Like, and it's like the fairy doors that you're like, oh, what goes down there? It's like it's a dark hole, like a dark valley. And it's like, oh my God, no one's ever had the key to that. Where's the key? I don't even know.
How did you get that?
I've lost it, literally. And then he enters it, and so through divine sex in this way, I have had extremely potent healing experiences where I am meeting like, he accesses the little girl in me, that she comes online, and she comes and she's with us during the sex, and I'm like crying hysterically because it's like I'm feeling her in all of her ways that she was rejected, or all the ways that she was not held emotionally.
Yes.
Yeah, I've had really intense crying sessions in this container because it's like you're saying, I feel so safe now. My body feels so incredibly open to receive that now I get to meet the parts of myself that had to shut down or that had to tense up. But because I'm so open, he's getting to access and penetrate all the rooms. And yeah, that's the best word I have. It's penetrate and heal.
Yeah.
He guides me deeper into my own self. It's wild.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And
Crying during sex is literally a sign of purifying and cleansing.
No.
It is the element of water. The vagina is the ocean. Like, the Super Soaker 6000 is not, like, we don't call it that for no reason.
Before we started this podcast, water came to me psychically. It was like, talk about the molecular understanding of water. Why is it so cleansing that oh my God. So I love that you're talking about that. It's like, truly, water is so incredibly potent. That's why we get baptized in it.
We are water. The most elemental part of our body, besides ether, is water. When you think about percentage of our makeup as humans, It's like 84.5%
Right.
water.
Which we hear that all day. It's like,
We're
stay
like, oh yeah,
hydrated.
whatever.
Yeah.
But when you cry, those tears, like I said, regulated by the master glands, when your brain is nourished, when all of those centers are pushed open and then circulate and spiral, it then breaks down those shields that you've placed upon all parts of your body. And so those tears are actually purifying and cleansing the surrounding energetic centers.
Wow. Makes so much sense.
It's beautiful.
It's so beautiful. Tell us of your experience.
Yeah. In the beginning, when I first got with my partner a few years ago, I never had done this before. He was actually the only person that I've done this with still to this day. And the first time it happened, I was like you said, it's very jarring. I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I crying right now? You know, like
My bad. I swear to God, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. You know, and at first it scared him. He was like, baby, are you all right? Am I hurting you? Is something wrong? And it used to, in the beginning, the first few times, it would kind of freak him out a little bit because he thought that tears, in his perception, were a sign of pain or bad, you know, and me too. But as time went on, he now speaks over me and encourages that. You know, talking about some I love when you cry type shit. And that in itself just makes me so much more ready to go. Ready to roll.
He's daddy.
Ready to go. And in that space, it has changed who I am because it's purified me so many times. And I love it now. It's my favorite part. Like when we get to that point, it's like, yes, I love the feeling. I embrace that feeling instead of being like, oh, I'm sorry, you know, wiping the tears, trying to like hurry up and get back into the sexy space. You know, it then becomes medicine. You know, when you go to an energetic healer and they do all the things and they wave their hands in front of you and they're like, woo, and you feel it and something happens, that's great. But then when you do it yourself, it's so different. Especially when you recognize what you're doing and then you can replicate it. And I just feel like crying during sex is such an underappreciated phenomena because it is one of the most, like, I'm a Cancer moon. I love to cry. Crying is one of my favorite ways of regulating. Like, seriously, if I'm angry, if I'm happy, if I'm sad, crying is one of the best ways for me to regulate and release and reframe.
I do love crying.
I love a good cry. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a crying girl.
We forget that we need to cry.
Yeah. And I'm not ashamed of my crying, but I used to be because when I was raised, my parents were like, you never fucking stopped crying. All you did was cry. For the first 3 years of your life, you cried. All you did was cry. And yeah, because when we come into this
like,
world,
I'm a Cancer moon, bitch. I'm water, bitch. I literally can't help it, bitch. I am water.
But when you come into this world as a baby, we come into this world grieving. We hold our parents. We hold our ancestors. We're born from ecstasy, but we are born grieving.
Chills down my legs, you saying that.
Trying to get our needs met all of our life. And the only way that my body knew how to process the immense role that I carry is to cry.
At the very least, give the girl a break. She's just having a few water droplets from her eyes. It's like, I am literally changing the entire makeup of our DNA. I came here to shift the motherfucking
Where
world.
are the tissues?
The least you could do was hand me a fucking tissue. Damn. I'm trying to chill.
So now in that sexual space, it's so medicinal for me. And I encourage that to all of my sisters.
Cried?
Yes. Actually, yes.
Wow.
It's definitely not as often as I, because I'm a crying girl. But yes, he has. And how fucking magical is that? You know?
Dude, a man that's crying during sex, you know he's reached some other levels.
He has. And he's not ashamed of that.
No, because dude, like, that's what every woman desires is like,
to feel
can
worshipped.
you soften?
To feel worshipped.
I see you in your softness so that I can feel safe? You know, it's like a man truly cannot hold a woman until he has met his own feminine. And that's why, you know, you won't call in a man who is dedicated to himself until you are dedicated to yourself. It's like the classic, you know, we hear this, like you're if you're looking for divine partnership, you're wanting to experience pleasure on this level, You have to become the thing. Then the thing that you already embody presents itself in the 3D world.
Yeah.
Orgasm is the way to manifest the things that you desire, because it's a tool, because it's bringing you straight to the most powerful frequency, right? It's like we said that in the beginning. It's like it creates in the brain, is happening, and a frequency is becoming available to you, so you can laser point your vision. And that's what the whole thing of manifesting is. You are bringing to your life what you are focusing on a subconscious level. You might not even be aware that you are creating the patterns over and over and over again, because until you start to become aware and break, I am focusing actually on, like, that's what I feel deserving of, or whatever. So the more that you practice your self-care in the orgasm space, or self-pleasure, and I wanted to mention too, of like people, or if you haven't even, like Alyssa was saying, I don't know if it was off air or not, where she doesn't call it masturbating anymore, right? It's this like self-pleasure. It is a practice. And I remember getting so kind of turned off. It's like, ugh, this is boring. This is boring for me. I don't even like feel anything. I'd much rather feel pleasure from connecting with another person.
Yeah. Jackrabbit 6000.
And like, yeah, women like have become so dependent on their little toys, and like, okay, well, whatever.
Because they're disappointed in what they're receiving.
Yeah.
The 5 pump chumps are just not satisfying women in their liveliness.
Ew, yeah. Girl, you don't want, ain't nobody wants that.
And it's so pushed into our subconscious through movies. Like, I literally remember growing up and watching every damn movie. I've never seen a scene where a woman reaches an orgasmic state before the man and then the sex ends. It is woman's job to ensure that her man reaches the actionable state of ejaculation. But ejaculation is not orgasm.
Yeah, that's another whole thing that we didn't even get into debunking. And, it's like the ejaculation. And I know men, that's a whole other subject. We are really, dominating the conversation here with women, and maybe we will get onto a different episode when it comes to the man and semen retention and beautiful practices too for your own energetic health in your body.
Sex is the closest to our divine selves that we can get. But we have been pushing the idea of sex and orgasm this whole time. This is just the literal baseline of reaching and understanding and embodying a super conscious. The physical action of sex is just the invitation to begin understanding what that means. And I feel like a great practice to incorporate here is something called soft penetration, eye gazing, kissing, soft touch, speaking to each other in the space of wholeness. It's so distraught to be like, yeah, you should have your man insert when he's not erected. It is actually the woman's job to make sure to initiate and to instill erection. So what that means is when you enter into the space, enter into the room, not in an actionable aroused state, man and woman can then initiate their arousal together. And this creates a whole new dynamic because you enter into the space with nothing happening.
Soft?
How
does that work? Tell us more.
You enter into the vaginal space soft.
Just by kind of just connecting. And
you can insert there. If you have lubrication, you can insert there because you want to feel the fullness of the expansion and the emptiness of the vagina. The woman will feel open to receive that. The man will just present as he is. Then through eye gazing, breath, touch, kissing, all the things, you will then feel that erection happen deeper and deeper, and to feel your man grow and to feel you absorb him inside of you from start to finish like that, instead of just like getting hard and then you're done. It's a whole new journey that you take. And when you do that, you then just bring a whole new level of awareness for that sexual energy to move from the breasts down to the vagina, up to the glands, and to circulate into your man.
Wow.
It's a whole new experience. And I kind of wanted to end with that little time capsule because I feel like eye gazing and breath and appreciate cock worshiping, even without erection.
Yes.
testicle worshiping without erection. It's just a whole new thing.
Totally.
Man worshiping a woman's breast in a whole new way, just like physically rubbing his face on it, not kissing and pinching and twisting and pulling and all the things of what we think that pornography has shown us is the way to excite a woman is actually turning her the fuck off. When you're in the state of peak arousal, pinching a woman's breast feels great. But to just go up to a woman and be like, beep, 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 honka, 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 don't you feel so sexy? Fuck no, bitch.
No.
Get out of my face.
Literally,
I'm pissed off now.
Like, actually, you've just ignited anger in my fucking body, and you need to back the fuck.
And
Now you're
anger-
not touching me ever.
Anger is the embodiment of sexual frustration. I stand on that. If an angry woman presents herself to do, she's sexually frustrated. Period. Men too.
Wow.
Angry men are fucking sexually frustrated.
I remember them saying something about, like, back in the day, it was like, if you chew ice. Remember all these, like, hilarious, like, I don't know, it's not like superstitious, but it's like, if you chew ice, that means you're sexually frustrated.
Ooh,
Have you heard of this? It's
no.
interesting somatics. I'm wondering, there's probably so much research on, like, yeah, what people do when they're actually sexually frustrated.
They're trying to enter into a state of ecstasy. In this book, they talk about ecstasy being cool. Ecstasy is cool. It's lazy. It's languid. It flows without being. So they're chewing that ice to try to satiate all of the hot lust and excitement and tension. They're actually trying to cool it down. No, I've actually never heard that before.
So interesting. I used to hear that. I'm like, what? Like chewing on stuff. But yeah, we do things as humans. We're just like animals trying to like regulate and understand what we need is like what we're actually doing. But so funny how it comes out in certain things like that. But oof.
To end, I want to just go back to our manifestation during orgasm topic. And I feel like it would be important to give the listeners something to do.
Yeah.
So something to try.
Yes.
So I am going to encourage and invite you, listener, to go into your self-pleasure space, set the tone, do the whole nine. If you like to hear a little soft ambient jazz in the background with your orange light on,
music.
do the thing. The temperature's right. You're alone. If you want to use a toy to assist you, do that. If you want to drink some Blue Lotus tea about 30 minutes before to wake up your yoni, do that. Do what you got to do. Take a hot shower, get in your bed. And in that space, I want you to just begin with placing your left hand over your womb and your right hand over your heart. Your masculine, right over your heart. Your feminine, right over your yoni. These are not opposing poles. They're actually the same pole. But by doing so, you're going to connect to the frequency of that by placing same over same. And you're going to close your eyes and you're going to breathe. And just get regulated. Scan your body. Release all the tension in your face, in your lips, in your temples, in your neck, and get comfy there. There's no time frame on this, but until you feel no tension at all in your whole body, you feel heavy, then you can begin, quote unquote, masturbating, okay? Pleasuring yourself. Grab your toy, start on the softest mode. Everybody wants to jump to frequency 3. We all want to jump there. I get it, girl. Refrain. Refrain.
Give yourself what you really want.
Just try
Slow.
it. Trust me. Okay. You're going to start on the softest mode and you're going to stay there for a while and you're going to set the place. You're going to enter into your cervix and then you're going to fantasy. Go down into your cervix. Look at your room. What does your room look like? Do you feel comfortable there? I want you to sit down and then you begin the imagery. You're going to connect with yourself. I want you to connect with yourself 10 years from now. And you're going to have sex with yourself. Yes. You're going to pleasure yourself 10 years from now as the person you are right now.
Oof.
You're going to feel all the things that she has, her jazz, her pizzazz, her love, her ease, her awareness, her poise, her ability to show up as feminine, work as feminine, speak as feminine, embody that. To be so unfazed by this world that you show up completely as you are, and I want you to love her. Feel the excitement of having this life that you dream of every single day, the ease of just waking up and spending time with your partner. This is not even about sex. You're not having sex at all. You are literally going to have a sacred energetic exchange with yourself 10 years from now. And then when you get to that region of feeling more, you turn it up a notch. And then you turn it up a notch. And then when you almost get there, turn your vibrator off.
Ooh,
And if you come, it's okay. When you do, I want you to let it all out, and then you're going to hold your breath. Then you're going to connect to your space and feel it go all the way up between your eyes. Roll your eyes up to your brain. Roll your eyes up to your brain. Hold your brain. Hold your brain. Hold your breath. Hold your brain. Hold your breath. And then just let it go. And I want you to fucking feel the difference of that versus bow, 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 bow.
Versus rubbing one out. Let me just go rub one out real quick.
When you get out of that bed, whether you go to sleep afterwards or you get up and you go do whatever you got to do, you're going to feel different. And you can change the imagery after that and you can explore with it. But this is a great baseline of something that I do that has personally changed who I am and has connected and quite literally manifested every single thing that I think about in that cervical space to be my literal reality today.
Totally. Damn. So delicious. Thank you, Alyssa, for that freaking guidance. I'm sure if you guys are in the car, like, just pause, see where we ended that, get on the time stamp.
I'm kind of ready to go right now.
I'm trying to go. I got something. Can you go to dinner tonight? No, I cannot. I have plans. I got to listen to the last 10 minutes of the Luminators podcast right quick. And I'm going to get what I want.
Yes. As you should, queen.
Thank you so much for coming on here and holding yourselves while we hold you today.
Yes. Thank you,
listening
guys.
and being open. I know it's a lot of information. I know I'm going to listen to this a couple of times over. So we can't wait to see you next time.
Yes, 2 weeks. We are going to be incorporating a series where we answer questions that you guys are having. So we're going to do like a live Instagram type of thing. So we're going to attach our email and our Instagram so you can DM us or email us with any questions or things that you would like us to discuss on this podcast. And if we receive enough, we might even make it an episode. So do your thing, share. We would love to hear your insight and stories on this topic as well, just with conventional sex, orgasm, anything that you may experience. We love that. Thank you again for the reviews on both Spotify and on Apple Music. They literally change our life and give us the power to keep it going here.
Yes.
So we love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for listening today. Have an incredible rest of your week.
And how you can sip from the cups of myself or Alyssa will be listed in the show notes. How to get in contact with Alyssa and all of her beautiful offerings, and mine as well, will be in the bottom, or follow us on Instagram. We will see you next time.
Bye, Lumies.
Bye, Lumies.